Hello and welcome to another Blender tutorial from David Ward. This is, of course, David Ward. And in this tutorial, I would like to show you the way to get a Shapeways color model with the colored full color sandstone option that they have. Now, the way you do that is you have to basically, your model has to fit, within the normal parameters of thicknesses and everything like that. But then you also have to package up the texture map with it, and it can only have one. So if you have a lot of different parts, you got to stick them all together and combine them to make just the one texture map. So figured I'd go through and pull up one of my old characters. You might recognize him, old Johnny Blender 3. I don't remember if I called him Captain Johnny Blender or whatever, but the final part looks like it was part 22. We were animating him. So let's jump back a couple of parts and get the one where we just finished rigging. So let's open up. I have this all sectioned out here. Let's see, maybe 21. Let's try that one. And yeah, so here we go. Just some testing out the facial expressions, looks like. Okay, so what I'm going to do is split my window here and get my old dope sheet out, go to Action Editor, and just, excuse me, just X that out. So, pardon me, I don't get the froggy throat until I start recording. Blah. Okay, so now we don't have any more animation. That's good. So what we want to do is put him into a heroic pose, since he's kind of a superhero type of thing. So let's grab the armature layer that has his regular rig on it. Mercy. Apologize for all the throat clearing. Okay, where was I? I had to go get a drink of water. My throat was just going crazy. Alright, so let's put him into a nice heroic pose. Stand there. Let's make his feet spread apart like so. And have him sticking his chest out even further, maybe even leaning forward a little bit. Little bit of bend in the knees there. So about like so. And then maybe rotate his feet out a little bit. Maybe not quite as spread quite so far. Oops, rotate him on the Z-axis. I guess I could turn on my screencast key so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so now let's ball his fist up there. My rotate tools and go to normal. There we go. I built this way back. I'm not sure if I still use the same techniques for modeling and stuff that I did then or not, but should be able to make things work okay. So we'll just bend those fingers all the way around and maybe make them a little more fist-like. Okay, and now when you're doing this, if you have a lot of very thin items, like for example the fingers here, it really helps on the good lord, I apologize for this froggy throat. I don't know what's going on with that. If you have a lot of thin items there, like the fingers, it helps with the structure and the integrity if you kind of mesh them together to where they're touching, so they're not out standing on their own. So for that same example, to make this arm a lot stronger, we would just bend it down to where it's actually on the side of his body, as just like just an extra piece rounded out to the side there. But of course that would look kind of silly here in our heroic pose. So we'll just keep going with the way we were going. Put his hands on his hips there. About right there. And let's just select this whole left hand here and hit the copy current pose, paste opposite. So now we have him standing there nicely. But I would like to give a little bit of variation so it's not quite symmetrical. Maybe have him kind of standing over to one side and maybe turn his head to where he's looking up at the stars or up at the sky. He's getting ready to fly away or something. I don't know what superpowers he has. I guess as his creator I should know, but there we are. Okay, so we got him in a nice pose. Let's give him a nice expression. That's kind of a decent expression he's got already, but let's kind of give him a nice show its teeth. Really show the power of the 3D model render, because if we have his mouth open, it'll render all that inside there. I mean, it'll print that out just like that, and it's pretty cool. My first model I made was the Angry Alien, similar to the little alien that I was trying to use with the Captain Ted project. If you follow my Facebook page, about a year or two ago, I was making a project with the monkey and an alien and a pilot. Never did finish it, but anyways, it's one of those abandoned projects that I lost interest on. But in any case, that was the first model I did, was the Angry Alien, and he was just standing there like this. And I printed it off, I was like, oh cool, he'll be able to stand up. But he couldn't, because his feet were not quite straight, and his head was so big, it weighed him over, and he would not stand up. It kept falling over. So, one way to remedy that is to give him a base, like I did with the T-Rex. So there's no problem there. He's glued to the base there, and it stands up perfectly fine on its own. So let's do that with Johnny Blender here. Let's just add in a cylinder. It'll just be a simple circular base. We'll go and leave the vertices at 32. We're going to scale it. I'm going to tab in edit mode. Scale it down on the Z-axis to where it's just more of a disc shape. Maybe scale it up a little bit, and we'll drag it down and put it below him, like so, slightly, past the bottoms of his feet, so it's actually glued to him, like so. Okay, and maybe let's move it. If we hit G and then Shift Z, we can move it however we want, and it won't affect its vertical movement, so we can kind of position it a little easier, like so. You see it didn't move it up and down. Now his left knee looks locked there. I don't like that, so let's grab part of that facial rig and then turn on the rest of the body again. And let's move him down just a bit to where that knee has a tiny bit of a bend to it as well. Maybe like so. Oops, I guess I have that disc on the same layer as the bones there. There we go. Let's go ahead and move that up to that top layer there. Okay, so now we have a nice heroic pose with Captain Johnny Blender. Now, since we got that all set, you notice we have a few different body parts, and once we get where we're going with this model, we will combine all of those together, and we'll just have one solid mesh. So, let's go ahead and apply that armature. Okay, he's got shape keys, so what we're going to have to do, if we want this to be his final expression, now one thing that's good to do if you're doing this from a previously constructed file, you want to create a specific file for this sculpture. So let's call this one JB321 statue. I can see what I'm doing here. Statue. There we go. Go ahead and save that. There goes the froggy throat again. Oi. Okay, so now the way we get that final facial expression as the solid expression and delete all the other shape keys is what we can do is just hit this down arrow here and go new shape from mix. And at all of these shape keys that it has modified at all, some of them are 1.0, some of them are not, some of them are just a little bit, but it creates basically a snapshot of that. And if you wanted to name it, you could. We'll say final face. It doesn't matter because it won't be there in the end anyways. So what we're going to do is just select this basis here and just start hitting this minus button. It's going to go through and it's going to delete all of these shape keys. And once we get down to that final one that was a copy of all the others, that will be the new base. And then once we delete that one, boom, that is his final static facial expression. Okay, so now we'll go back to the modifiers. Now we can apply the armature there, and also we can apply the mask because we're not going to need all the extra body stuff. So if we turn that off, we can go ahead and apply that, because once we apply the armature, well, the hidden masked part were reliant on the armature. So once we deleted that, it kind of would throw things off if we kept it. So in any case, we don't need it for the final render anyways. We also don't need the mesh deform since we're not going to be animating anymore, but I guess we'll have to apply that rather than delete it. So Okay, so we got the main body all set. As you can see, it doesn't move anywhere anymore since we applied everything. We'll do the same thing with the jacket thing here. Go and apply the mask, apply the armature, and apply the mesh deform. Now it's all set. The gloves too, we'll have to modify them because they're really thin right here. One thing we can do is just go ahead and solidify and make sure it's going, let's bump that up above the subsurf. Make sure it's going in the negative direction, right there, offset -1. And if we change the thickness, it'll slowly start going all the way down. And that'll be fine. We want that to be solid in there. So now we will apply the armature, apply the solidify, and we'll leave the subsurf alone for now. But I would like to add another loop right there around the back of the gloves, and then maybe in here, and move those down to where it looks nice and like it's going into the glove part. So like so. And then we'll do the same thing on the right hand. Just add a loop in here and a loop in here. And then grab that and just drag that in like so. Like so, like so, like so. Okay, so now I think everything is good to go. Yes. Now, one thing I'm seeing is some of the forearm here is coming through the glove, so let's select that loop there. Scale that down. Same thing on this side. Scale that down. And should be good to go. Okay, so now each item is ready to be all merged together. Actually, well, let's do the eyeballs as well. Let's grab those. Okay. Is that two separate items? Yes. Okay, so we'll grab each of those and apply the meshes. Mesh deforms, even though it didn't really deform at all. But now what we can do is just grab everything we have here. Actually, before we do that, it's good to separate things out by their materials that they have. So right now you can see JB materials, and I'm not sure what all that's covering. Texture, is it? Okay, since I think when I reloaded, or when I was packaged this whole shebang up to put it in my store online, I separated each section out into its own folder, so I'll probably need to remap the texture maps. So, so textures, and which one was the texture map? I believe was the one we were looking for. Yes. Okay, so that's for his skin, his body. If we turn on the texture shading there, you can see what we have and what we don't have. So let's go ahead and grab the gloves and do the same thing here. Go ahead and map that back to the correct place. Gloves map, there we go. There's just orange. And then finally the jacket. So let's do this, textures, jacket. Okay, so there we go. Now, the reason I said we have to section out each individual texture map section, well, I'll explain that as we go. It'll become more clear. Okay, so first off, we'll grab his body and let's just select everything. I guess we have some things hidden, so we'll select all that and go over to our object data there. And also, we can get rid of all of these vertex group that we have now that were used for the rig. So we don't have the rig anymore, so we don't need any of these. So just clear all these out. It'd be nice if there was a way. Yeah, there we go. Delete all groups. There we go. Nice and fast. So we'll just create a new one, and we'll call this one body texture. Okay, go and assign that. And then we will grab each of the other parts. Actually, before we do that, let's grab our base mesh, or our platform here, and make it ready to be part of the main statue. And that's the way we tell that is we add the subdivision surface like we have on the rest of the model. And you can see it obviously is not. So we have to add a few loops here, like one right there, so it's nice and flat on the bottom, and one there around the top. And then I would also like to add kind of the pie fan. Right now it's just basically a B-mesh, an N-gon. So I would like the triangle fan, as it were. So the way we can do that is just hit E there, select that whole top row and hit E, and that extrudes, and then we'll hit S0 on our numpad, and it scales all those vertices down to 0%, so they're all exactly in the same spot. Now we can hit Alt-M, merge them at the center, and so now we have the triangle fan there on the top. And let's do the same thing on the bottom. Let's turn off the texture map so we can see what we're doing. Grab that Bottom loop there, same thing, E, S0. There we go. Alt M, that's center. So now we have the triangle fan on each one. So now I would like to have some subdivisions in there, and tell you what, before we merge them, we could have just added a loop in. Actually, let me undo that a couple of times. Control Z. There we go. So I could just add a loop in there because those are still just vertices. So you can go ahead and do that. Alt M. Now we can merge it. Now we can add as many more as we want to here on the bottom. Well, if I can do it on the right spot. There we go. Okay. Now, but since we already merged the ones on the top, a quick, easy way to be able to add more loops in there is we have that center vertex selected. Select all the rest around the edge there, and then we go to our edge select and Alt Shift and click on that edge again. Boom. And now we just have those sections selected, and now we can go W subdivide. And now we have that loop right there. We go back to vertex select. We hit G twice. We can move it a little closer to the center or further to the outer side. That moves it along its normals, or along its edges. So, or slides it along its edges. There, that's what it does. So we can move that down to about there, and then maybe add a couple of more loops here. So there we go. So we got a nice platform now. Okay, so now we got the body all situated. Let's do the same thing with the gloves there. We'll select all that, and let's just delete out all of these groups. Create one more, and we'll call this one gloves texture. Okay, do the same thing on the jacket. Delete all the groups. Add one more, jacket texture. And now back to the platform. What we'll need to do, since we're going to be adding this into the main mix of the texture map, pardon me, we need to add some seams to it, or at least one seam. Maybe, actually, let me undo that. We're not adding a new loop, we're adding a seam. So we go Control E and mark the seam. There we go. Let's go to the top edge there as well. Control E, mark the seam, and then let's go around to the back and put a nice split in that long shape there. Otherwise, it'll be just a donut, basically. So we'll Control E, mark seam. Okay, so now that's got all the seams marked. So let's select all that. Create a new vertex group and call this one platform underscore texture. So there we go. Okay, so now we can grab the platform, shift select the gloves, shift select the jacket, and finally shift select the model itself and go Control J, and that will join them all together. So now I have the one solid statue, but we do also have the eyeballs that we need to fix, or not fix, but add on. And one thing we can do to make this a little bit easier is just grab that part of the eyeball that's not going to be visible behind the surface of the skin and just go ahead and delete that loop. Just delete those edges. Actually, let me undo that. Delete the vertices. There we go. Now back to vertex select, and we can delete the whole rest of the back of the eyeball. Delete those. Okay. Let's do the same thing on this other eyeball. And select the loop. There we go. Delete that. Vertices. Select that. Control L, delete. Okay, so now we have him ready to go. So we'll grab the eyeballs too, both of those, and shift select the body, Control J, join everything. So now everything we have here is one solid mesh. You can see it's all one big mesh. Okay, so and any other times you'd be done, ready to ship this off to Shapeways? Well, not quite, because Shapeways does not recognize subsurf modifiers. So let's just go ahead and kill that. And if you send it to Shapeways now, this is what it would look like. Actually, this, grab that flat shaded. It would look like this. It would not be very pretty at all. So what we can do with that subdivision surface is give it a couple of subdivisions there to where it starts looking pretty decent. Maybe about like so. Maybe subdivisions of 3. That would be great. Nice and smooth. And we would apply that. But until we get ready to finish everything completely, I'm going to just knock that down to 1, just so my computer behaves a little better. Because once you start adding a lot of subdivisions, it really bogs down. At least my computer. I don't know, it's supposed to be a graphics awesome machine. It's great for gaming and stuff, but it seems like it likes to slow down and get buggy when I'm messing with things in Blender too much. So, anyways, so back to the texture maps. Now that we've combined all of those together, we have all of these materials here under this one thing. And that's kind of a problem because the Shapeways only needs one, or only uses one. So what we have to do is just delete all of these other guys, and we'll create a new one. And we'll call this one JB3_combined. Okay? Now, another thing that we need to do, let's split this window here so we can see our UV image editor. And let's hit the T button here so we don't have the tool panel anymore. And the N button. It's kind of hard to work in this small space. My normal monitor is a full 1080p, and I'm recording at 720p, and it's a little tight. Not a lot of elbow room. So let's kill out the render result option there. And right now, since we combined all of those items, we should have, so we had the body, the jacket, and the gloves, and then the eyeballs and the platform. But I think only the body, jacket, and gloves actually had UV coordinates. And we can check that here. Looks like it still only has one. So what we need to do is we need to separate this out. We'll call this one, we'll say body texture, okay? And we'll create another one, and this one will be gloves texture. And then this one will be jacket texture. Okay, so we're going to pull from these, and we'll be using the clone paint, texture paint clone tool to pull from all these different sections and put them all into one single final. You know what? Actually, though, let me try something real quick. I just had an idea. Let me try something. Be right back. Okay, I think this idea will work. I'll go ahead and record while I'm doing it. All of these individual pieces, even though we've deleted that material, in their UV coordinates in each individual map, they have, you know, if I come in here and I select the body texture, where are we going? Shape key, vertex groups. Where is that? There we are. Body texture. If I select only that, you can see it has the body texture selected. Then if I select the, say, the jacket, let's deselect everything, select the jacket, select the jacket. I didn't select the jacket when I was creating this, did I? Oh, bother. Okay, so we'll do it now. Control L, that should be all of the jacket. And we'll assign that. And it's also got his neck. So let's try to Control L, Control. There we go. Okay. So now all the vertices that make up his jacket, they have their own material here in the UV editor. So let's go ahead and assign the jacket texture to those, assign those vertices to that texture. Do the same thing on the gloves. Assign them to that. And the platform should be, no, I didn't. I created all of these vertex group, but I didn't. And we can go ahead and unwrap that, I guess, real quick. So we'll assign that. Okay, so now if I select the body, select, should just be the body. And yes, okay, so deselect that. Platform should be the platform, deselect. Jacket should be the jack, and it's got part of the leg there, don't want that. So let's remove that from there. And now we'll select that again, there we go. Okay, gloves, deselect. And the gloves apparently have part of the leg as well. So let's remove that from there. Okay, so one more thing, select. Okay, just checking over, select, good to go, select, good, select, good. Okay, now I guess the eyeballs also have their own, but that doesn't matter. We can change that later on. So the idea I was wanting to do, rather than use the clone paint tool to create a new one, what we can do is just create a combined one here, and I'm hoping that if we go in here to our bake, we'll create a new texture map for the combined UVs, create a new one, new image. Let's make this one really big, 2048, 2048. Okay. Okay, and we'll go ahead and unwrap all the UVs. And make sure you have that new UV map selected, because all the other ones are reliant upon their base meshes. So, we have everything here. Let's go ahead and average the scale and pack the islands a little better. You'd think it'd pack a little bit better on there, but I guess not. Okay, so now, hopefully, if I go back to what I was going to do, bake the textures, and let's hope everything bakes to the new map. It does not. I wanted to bake to the gloves. Okay, so what I was afraid of, we're going to have to do like I said before and use the clone map. So right now the body texture should be using JB texture map, and I guess we'll have to reload that one. There we go. And then the gloves will be using the glove map. There we go. Go and reload that one. I guess when we baked it, the jacket, when we baked, it kind of overwrote all of the texture maps, so we just have to reload them from the saved versions. Okay, so the body texture, you notice it's on the other items, but that's just because it didn't know how to map them well. They're not all combined yet. And then the gloves, everything looks orange. That's just because everything's mapped onto that solid orange map. And the jacket is good. So as long as everything that we're selecting here, the body texture, as long as the actual body part looks fine, the gloves look fine, the jacket looks fine, that's just fine. Everything's fine. So now we will select the Untitled here, tab into edit mode when we select the correct UV map, and that'll have the new map that we made. And let's expand this out, and we're going to go to texture paint now, and we're going to use the clone brush. And now under the options, we need to turn off all of these occlude, cull, and normals, and we need to set which UV map we're going to be cloning from. So the first one's going to be the body texture. So if we just click in here and paint, it's going to let me. Of course, my computer's wanting to slow down. Doesn't look like it's wanting to paint too well. Let's go back up here. Strength all the way to 1. Yeah, that should be fine. Let's maybe we can't see anything. Let's go to our shading and turn on GLSL. And okay, so that should be good. Down on the combined, we're cloning from the body text. Clone from, yeah, we have to select that. Everyone is probably seeing that and be like, Dave, nope, you got to select that. And now you can see it's painting over here, but we're not seeing it show up in here. So I'll tell you what, let's go back to multi-texture. There we go. And let's turn on shadeless. Actually, shadeless, yeah, let's do that. Turn on shadeless so we can see the whole model and not worry about if it's, you know, whatever is in shadow or not. So we'll paint the whole thing. His legs are kind of gray. Okay. Oh, the reason I separated everything out into its own vertex group is for just this occasion. You can see now we're cloning from only the body texture, but it's painting on everything else. I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish out that. And now we're going to start painting from, let's do the, well, I'll do the gloves next. But now if I paint from the gloves, it's going to paint across the whole body again. And you'd have to get in there really precise to not get it to go on top of the parts that it's not supposed to go to. So let's undo that. And we're going to tab back into edit mode, deselect everything. And now we're only wanting to paint the gloves. So to grab the gloves, or that's the textures, go to the vertex group there. Deselect everything. So grab the gloves and select that. So now the gloves are selected. And also we need to make sure we're on the combined one there. And now we go back to texture paint. We select this little guy right here. It says face selection masking for painting. So if we select that, it's only going to paint on what's selected. You can see it's highlighted with the white selection there. If we click and paint that, boom, that's the only thing it paints on. So good to go. We got the gloves painted the way they're supposed to. Now let's do the same thing on the jacket. Tab back in edit mode, deselect everything, select the jacket. There we go. Tab back out and make sure we're painting from the jacket texture. And go ahead and paint that in there. And it only painted the jacket. So it looks like we got a little bit of ugliness right in here, and that's probably due to having some overlap here on the texture map somewhere. Or I guess it would be right in here. Looks like. Oh, I'll bet. I know it's not the texture at all. It's the actual model. Looks like his skin is going to be coming through the mesh. We'll have to fix that up before we send it off to Shapeways, but we'll go ahead and finish the texture mapping for now. Okay, so we got his body all set. Now we only want to paint the platform that he's standing on. So let's tab back into edit mode and get the platform. Go ahead and select that. Tab out. And now we're not going to be cloning from anything because we didn't have an original platform texture. So now instead of clone painting, we're going to go back to normal painting. And let's paint that. I guess let's paint it the orange color of the gloves just to have that color repeated somewhere else. So we'll just grab our color pick tool, just go ahead and select that color, and just boom, go ahead and paint that on there like so. Okay, so now we have all of those texture maps combined into one. So one other thing we need to do before we're completely done is work on the eyeballs. So don't forget about those. And we'll turn off the face selection painting there. Actually, let's turn that back on, and let's select the eyeballs. So I don't actually accidentally paint on something else. Select those, Control L. Okay, now they're selected, and if we just paint white on there, there we go. We can see where they're at here. There's one of them there. Where is the other one? Right there, probably. And we can come in here and paint the actual pupil because we can see where it would be. So if we set this to black and actually go to paint in this window as well, we have to hit N, actually have to hit T so we can see our tools over here. Let's set the radius way down. I can't see. There it is. Way so big. Way too big. I couldn't see where it was going. So set the radius way down. And maybe, let's see, 7 was too little. Let's try 11's too big. Let's try 9. That's still too big. Let's try 8. 8 will be about right, I think. So we'll just click right there. Let's fill that in like so. And then come over to the other one. There it is. Same thing. Just click right in there in the middle and fill that in. So now you can see he's got the black pupils. So we'll come out of texture paint and turn the shadeless off now. You can kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like. Okay, so we got our texture map all set. Let's go ahead and save this before we do anything else. Save as image. And we'll just call this one JB3 texture map underscore combined. And save. Okay. So now that we have that on there, we need to apply it to the actual model. So we come back over here to this new material we started earlier. Go ahead and collapse that window there. Let's call this, well, it's already named, so we'll go over to our texture settings, scroll up here, say new, and go image or movie, and just click here, and we'll say, I guess it was Untitled probably. Let's go ahead and call it JB3 texture map combined. There we go. And also set the mapping to be UV. Okay, so he is good to go now. But if we send it off to Shapeways like this, like I said, we'd have some problems there around the neck. Let's turn that back to solid. You can see a little bit of the neck coming through the top of the collar there. So let's select that neck, scale it down some, and maybe Control plus so we get the next layer up there. There we go. Maybe Control plus. Oopsie. The wrong button. Control plus. There we go. Scale that down just a bit. And then maybe select. Actually, let's just select everything. Well, not. It's hard to say. Let's select the neck and the jacket and the arms. And we'll just Control L. We'll just select all that. And if we hit Alt S, it'll make everything a little fatter. And we kind of do like we did with the gloves and the fingers. Just kind of merge them all together. Because his arms, I'll bet you, are too thin to print, and I'll betcha his legs also are. So let's select those, Control L, and then we'll Alt S again, scale it, fatten them up a little bit, and there we go. Okay, so now if we make sure we go back to texture mode, everything's still copacetic. We'll select everything except the model. We hit the tilde key, the one right next to the number 1 on the top of your keyboard, above the tab key. It's called the tilde. It selects all of the layers here, and we don't want anything in the scene except our model. So let's make sure we have everything else unhidden. In case you have a background or something like that, just unhide it. And then we'll select the model itself, deselect everything, select the model, select inverse, and just go ahead and hit delete. So we deleted out the lamps and the armature and the camera and everything. So the only thing in our scene now is our model of Johnny Blender 3. Now, Shapeways, you could send it like this and just be fine, but if you want it to display nicely on the page, you need to rotate it 180 degrees. For some reason, when they put little renders of their models, the camera is from the back. So select everything, tab into edit mode, select everything, and make sure, one thing I noticed, I accidentally did a couple of times with my T-Rex, is the X mirror. If you mess with it on accident with the X mirror turned on, you can see, well, I guess I also had topology mirror, and that kind of screws things up. So let's undo that, turn both of those off, and just hit RZ. So it's rotating around the Z-axis 180 degrees, because there's 360 degrees on a circle. So we're rotating it half of that. So now he's facing the back. If we hit 1 on our numpad to go to the front, you can see that we're looking at his back. Okay, so this model is good to go. He's ready to upload to Shapeways. So let's go ahead and save this. Well, I say that. One thing we have to do is apply the subsurf. So let's go back to our solid view so we can get a good idea of what the texture is going to look like. And it's set to flat shading. And right now, if we did that, it would be okay with the texture map. It'd probably look okay. But if we go to at least 2, we'll still have a little bit of texture there on the chest. Let's go to 3. And then go ahead and apply that. And I'm going to save this as statue underscore final. Okay. There we go. And all those subdivisions will drastically increase the file size. Okay, so now that we got our model ready to go, the way we export it out to get the color sandstone is you go down to the export settings. You can't just use the blend file. You have to go to the export settings and use the X3D extensible 3D, X3D, right there. And we'll call this, we'll just leave it alone, JB321 statue final, X3D, export that. And once that's done exporting, go back to your scene. And you're basically done with Blender for now. And we'll bring over the file structure so I can show you what you have to do next to get this ready to upload. Is you take that X3D file, you can see it doesn't have a software extension associated with it, software associated, so it's just a blank icon there, but that's the one we need. And we also need the texture map that we created. So what we select both of those, right click, and just, I've got 7-zip, or you can use WinZip. I'll just add that to a zip file. And we get the options over here. Let's call it JB3 statue. Okay. And I actually have the WinZip in the other one. I've got dual monitors, so it's doing it, so don't worry. So let me pause recording while that packs that into the zip file. Okay, so I got that done, and you can see in here in my zip file, jb3statue.zip, we have the X3D file and the combined PNG. So there we go, and that zip file is right there. So now let's jump into Shapeways. Actually, I have my account all logged in here already. I'm going to go to my models, and I'm going to upload. Select the 3D file. And it's going to be, and Blender files, let's see, JB3, there we go, JB321, there we go, statue. Open that, and it gives you the option to choose what units. Oh, that's one thing I forgot to look at. Let's go back into Blender real quick, and it's probably going to be too big. The one way you can tell easily is under your display. If we turn on that grid floor, remember I turned it off way back at the beginning, you can get an idea of how big this is. So right now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think there's actually 10. I think I missed one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is there only 8? 3, 6, 7. I guess so. But there's 8 units by 8 units. Shouldn't be. Should be. I don't understand. There should be 10 there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess there's only 8. But in any case, each one of these units equals 1 unit, essentially. So if we were to choose which units we wanted here, millimeters, inches, or meters, that's what the 1 unit grid pattern would be. And we want inches. So obviously we need to scale this model down now. So right now he's roughly 3, 6. Okay, that's weird. The floor grid has 8 subdivisions, but the other grid has 10, looks like. So we want him to be about 3 inches tall or so. Let's put our 3D cursor right there at the bottom. Go to our side view. Okay, centered up. Tab into edit mode. Everything's selected. And let's hit our period button so we're scaling around the 3D cursor. And let's scale this down to where he's only about a little over 3 grid units tall. So about right there. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Actually, this is about 4.5. So let's go one little bit smaller. Okay, so about 3.5. All right. So now we'll go ahead and save this. File. Oh, I guess I better tab out first. Okay, now File, Save. And we'll do the same thing. File, Export, X3D. There we go. And just go ahead and overwrite the 1. Should be the same file size because it's the same amount of vertices and faces and all that stuff. It's just smaller. So, okay, so now over here, X3D there. Yeah, same size. Now we can just click and drag into that zip file and add and replace files. Add. There we go. And of course it's doing it in the other window yet again. But we'll go ahead and pause this real quick. Okay, so that got that added in. So now if we open up this guy, you can see if we sort by details, right now it's roughly 8:03 p.m. You can see that's when that one was added in. So that's the new one. So there we go. Okay, so now we're done with Blender, but we need to change that. Just go ahead and X that out. Select the new zip file. Okay, and we're going to use inches again. So now we'll upload, and it'll take it a little bit depending on how big it is. Check and see how big that zip file is. 10 megabytes. So depending on your internet speed, it might take a while or it may not take a while. Okay, so JB3 statue. Let's go ahead and rename this to full color statue. And in all intents and purposes, we are pretty well done with this. The only thing we have to make sure now is that it passes Shapeways inspection with all those thin lines. Excuse me, thin pieces like the arms and legs being thin. They may not be thick enough. Once we scaled it down to 3.5 inches, they might be too thin. So we'll let this finish processing, and it'll give us a list of results after it's analyzed it and all that stuff. So we'll see what it looks like then. Okay, it looks like it got the Johnny Blender uploaded just fine. It'll give us some details on the materials here once it's uploaded, once it's finished processing that. Looks like it's still working on that, but it got the actual model uploaded with all the colors and everything. You can see here. This is a nice little representation of what it might look like. So now we have our dimensions here. Inches wise, it's 1.742 wide, which is just short of 2 inches wide, just short of 3.5 inches tall. So we did the measurements there correctly here in Blender. So these grid units, 1, 2, 3, and just short of a half. Okay, and then it's 1.742 high. I guess it measures it like this, height and width, and then the height is actually the depth. So, so yeah, that fits in perfectly what we wanted to make him, the size we wanted to make him. It'd be roughly the same size as my little T-Rex statue that I showed you at the beginning. But yeah. Let's see. Details here. Number of separate parts. There's only one part because we combined everything. History. It's just got the one processing success. Okay, so the material should be showing up momentarily, and that'll give us an idea of what it can be printed in. And if it's all copacetic, if it's all nice and fine, then the full color sandstone will have all the little check boxes beside it. So I'll pause here until it finishes processing that part, and we'll be right back. Okay, I guess for some reason it's not wanting to load all the materials here in this window. So what I did was, if I went to view product, it wants to say, are you sure? Like, well, I don't know, I might still be processing something, so I don't want to mess that up. So I'll just, if I just control click here on my models there, it'll open up another tab. And I can scroll down, and there he is, ready to go. And this one, actually, if I go to edit model, it'll show all of the different options for printing. We'll scroll down all the way down to the very bottom, full color sandstone. Oh, looks like everything's good. Well, it's got check marks, which means it's the initial printability check has passed. So if that had something else there, you need to go in and fix that. So if that were the case, you could click on this view thin walls, and it brings up this. So for the most part, everything's pretty well good to go. Now you can see some orangey looking ones here, which that typically means that I guess that's their problem areas. Oh, the back of I don't see anything in the back of the head, but his thumb tip and the corners of his pinky. I don't know why that's considered suspect. It's part of a larger piece, but and then that one there. But overall, yeah, it's a lot better the first round than I thought. So let's go ahead and cancel this out. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and order me one. I'm going to add to cart. And for me, the price is going to be a little cheaper. So I like, you know, to make any money, I mark them up, you know, $2 or $3 each one. So I'm going to go ahead and say checkout. And it's got all my info already in here. And now there's one thing here that you might want to do if you decide to order this particular one. Print it anyway. Now, since it had those little flaws, it might throw errors at the 3D printer. And they'll be like, hey, look, it's got errors. We can't print it. But this way, print it anyway. It'll go ahead and send it through. And if, you know, it's too small and breaks off, so be it. But, yeah, so that's that. So, hey, guys, real quick. One thing I realized when I was setting this up to take some reference renders of it for the Shapeways page was I went to render for my first shot there. And you can see, well, now it looks fine, of course, but we still have all these other UV maps in there. So if I rendered from that first one that was selected, it gets pretty ugly, as you can see. So it's a good idea to get rid of all the UV maps that you don't need anymore. Actually, I guess we would do that from there. There we go. Get rid of body texture, gloves texture, jacket texture, and just leave the combined one there. And then we come back in here and make sure that that texture map is going to the combined. There we go. Okay, so now you would save it and do everything else that we did before. Copy it to the zip file and then upload that. So thought I would make sure I covered that before you did something and got a screwed up model in the mail if you were to order one. So okay, again, thanks for watching. Catch you next time.